Okay.
You'll have to monitor the stream
I
for.
will. I will. We are live, and we are talking to Scott. We were talking about comic shops. Scott is kind
Yes.
of on a campaign to make sure that everybody remembers and appreciates that comic shops were a very big deal at one time. Of course, it's like newspapers going away. I mean,
Well, no. Well, okay. Are you okay with me showing this art?
sure, sure.
Okay. So I was recently given this art, the New World Comics, which is where I shop here in Oklahoma City. The owner, because of the month off in Oklahoma, which, by the way, Ellis, I got an email today. I am not going back to work to my office. That is, I mean, I work every day, but I'm not. I'm working at home until May 4th. It's like,
Oh boy. Well,
I,
that's about what they were considering. Yeah. April,
well,
all the way to April.
I think that's driven by the state. Anyway, so the comic shop is kind of cleaning out their office. Apparently, it's just been really bad, and he found this, and he he offered it to Barry because Barry, who we do a podcast with, that is Barry right there,
Yeah, it's a little
and
caricature.
it's caricature of Barry. And anyway, so through the course of us, who gets it, I'm gonna end up hanging on to this. I think I offered it to Ellis. He didn't necessarily want it, and so I'll when I get the chance, I'll get a frame for it and hang it up here somewhere in my studio.
Well, like I made the comment, I haven't improved in 40 years. That's why I don't want to look at it, I guess.
Well,
Okay, 1983. It literally is 17 plus right now, that would be 37 years. Wow.
yeah.
37 years ago. So,
Now, what were you doing at the time?
well, I guess I was just getting ready to jump off and go to Dallas eventually. Now, 83, I'd still be 2 years away from it. I was in the, I was kind of like trying to be a comic artist also. I was going to cons and holding down tables in a couple of cases. And I went to Big Tulsa Con, had a lot of fun there. Had more fun at a Tulsa Con in that particular era than any con I've ever been to.
Oh yeah. Did you ever go to a Dallas Fantasy Fair?
I think I went to one, yeah.
Sorry,
Are,
I'm watching.
are those fun?
No, I never went to one. I was going to go to one, and I've heard all these stories about how they had a lot of good guests and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the one I was going to go to was canceled like right before I went. For I forget the reason. Something happened. I don't know if the partnership split up or something, and it gone for years. And I don't know what year that was. But it would have been. It was probably before I ever went to San Diego, so it was probably like in the late '90s, maybe. And it was going to be my first big convention, and like 2 weeks before, it's like nope, not having it.
Well, at some point, I was a semi big deal uh, in my own mind, at any rate, because I had scored a deal with Eclipse Comics to do the art on a backup feature of Miss Tree's Thrilling Detective Adventures.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was
No,
called
that's
this. Yeah, go ahead. It
well,
was
I said
called. It was called the Scythe, and it was
okay.
bad. It was bad. I did a bad job, and
But you did it, right? Or did you do it?
yeah, I did do it. I think 2 or 3 issues with my art came out in it,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, it was, I was doing my best. I was, but it was bad. It was bad, and it's funny. I think I was probably in the elevator trade at that time, and I was ready to quit that and go to Dallas because no, that was another whole year. I probably hadn't even met Linda Schulman at the time. No,
So,
we would have been hot and heavy as a boyfriend girlfriend about that time, probably so. So yeah, so this is me thinking I can do anything because I've got a girlfriend.
I gotcha. That's good. You had a girlfriend that inspired you to do
Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
Uh, so, well, you started to say something that I want to continue on. That I am very just and part of it is the pandemic and being locked inside and all that jazz. Even though I tell Michelle tonight I feel really good about just life in general for some reason. But I do feel I do worry about the comic industry, you
yeah.
know. And I worry about comic shops. I mean, and people go, well, you get comics digital. Well, that's not the same. That's not the comic industry. And I mean, like you say, well, newspapers are dying or whatever.
Well,
But
the comics have been, look at their demographic of who buys them. It's all old guys that buy them. It's not young people. Young people aren't buying them. Yeah.
well, yeah, but anyway, so I've been very nostalgic about comic shops, and so I've been putting pictures of comic shops online on social media, even though I hadn't done it in a couple days. I've been busy. It's funny, everyone I know is seems to be idle, and Michelle and I are just super hooked up busy. Seems like, um,
That's the way to be.
well, that's probably, and then I had, and of course I told you read the emails about, um, oh, I think it was must have been last Thursday. I had a shelf collapse in my studio here. My
I,
shelf that I
I
kept on my long boxes on just collapsed.
wow.
And luckily it didn't fall over. The shelf broke, and then it just kind of folded down the middle, and so
Hmm.
nothing really fell in the floor. But
And
I had to kind
didn't
of scramble. Do what?
did it damage the goods?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
And so I bought this monstrous shelf that that I replaced it with. Um, but my the good thing is my studio was packed full of crap anyway. So now I've got more storage room. Um, and I have a flat file that I keep a bunch of all my old comic art goes in it. And I had to pull those out to move them.
Yeah.
Luckily that shelf didn't collapse. They were on the very top. And so last night I pulled them out. Let's see, was it last night? No, the night before. Night before. I pulled them out. I pulled the flat files out, drawer by drawer, because it's so heavy
Oh yeah.
otherwise.
Hmm.
And I took them in the bedroom and put them on the bed because that's the only place I had room to put them because they're just mammoth. They take up mammoth amount of floor space. Um, and so in the course of that, I've been looking through them and I've been finding this old art, and it's funny. It's kind of like you looking at that picture. I look at it and I go, golly, I should have been more. You just look at it and you go, okay, now wait a minute. Well, maybe I wasn't as bad as I thought I was. There's
Well,
some
no,
merit to
no.
this.
There is artwork that does wake you up to the fact of like, quit self doubting. You're as good as you are right at the moment. Get with it. Just
Just do it.
do what you're doing right there. You're doing it. You
Well,
know.
and it's funny you say that because yesterday I got a text. Now, I've been very pessimistic about the comic industry, like a lot of people, and for good reason. I mean, Diamond didn't ship them books. So, I
Right.
mean, whatever you say, it's not good. Now, it may not be that bad, but
Hmm.
the industry is not where anyone wants it to be, I think.
No.
And so so I was kind of a little pessimistic about. Well, let me back up and tell a little bit more of the story. So about a month ago, I was talking to my writer, and my idea was, and I talked to the publisher at New York, and I was like, man, I'd love to go to some cons, to sell the book, and I think it'd sell better if I went to. My publisher has this deal: if you're a writer and they put your book out, you have to go to so many cons. You have to commit yourself to go to so many cons a year to sell it, and but they don't require that of artists. But I told him, I said, I'd like to go to a couple. I mean, I like going to cons. I love, me. I mean, I love meeting people and talking to people, and I think I would be good at selling books. And and I think the books would sell better if the writer and the artist were there. And so in the back of my head, I always thought, man, I'd love to go to San Diego with my book. But I that's the reason why I stopped going to San Diego, because it's like I will go back when I have a book there with a publisher, because it doesn't make any sense to me to go otherwise.
Right.
Um, I mean, it's fun, but I'm going for a specific reason, and or I want to go for a specific reason. Anyway, so I was talking to my writer about a month or two ago, and I was like, well, how's the book shape? What's the, and he's like, well, we won't. He said, we're not. I said, well, we'll be done by New York, right? And he said, well, even if we're done, we won't be on the schedule. And I was like, oh man, it really took the wind out of my sails.
Yeah,
And
it's just
so
a pipeline deal. They can do what they can
exactly.
do.
Well, and I get that. So then all the stuff with the virus and the comic shop, and I was just like, man, are they even gonna, what's going on? So he texted me out of the blue yesterday and was like, hey man, how's everything? Are you okay? How's everything going? I said, yeah. I told him we've had this rash of broken stuff at my house. It's been crazy, but not to mention the shelves. But anyway, so I was telling him about this. And he's like, "Oh man," he said, I'm." I said, I didn't know, if everything would get pushed back because of this." And he goes, "Well," he goes, "No." He said, "If anything, this will move us forward." And so he's like, "Yeah, man." He said, "I'm getting ready." He said, because he's going to pay for the colorist. He said, "I think I found a colorist." He said, "Man, we're going full speed ahead." And so I was like, "Okay, cool." And his theory is kind of like, hey, when the market comes back up, people will be ready to buy comics, you know.
And then
So
they'll buy something that's got a big nice story to tell. And you guys, if these guys are as good at promotion and everything as they have, they've got a history of it, so
yeah,
it should be pushed out and should be a hit.
I think it'll do well for us. I mean, who knows what that means? But he's like, yeah, he's all of his projects. He's trying to push them forward because he's convinced that when the shops get going again, that everything's going to be booming.
Hmm.
And I mean,
Yeah.
I hope he's right. I think there are going to be a lot of people. The thing about us is both of us have day jobs, so we're not some of these guys. I see a lot of guys now that are doing art lessons and stuff like that. And I mean, if they can do it, that's great.
Yeah.
But um,
I do enjoy that Jake Parker
oh
guy.
yeah,
I didn't know until you told me that he invented Inktober.
oh yeah. He's been around for a while. Somewhere I have files. We were on a oh, what would you call it? Like I don't know if you know about Pencil Jack. It's I don't know if it's even still around, but it was a people trying to break in the industry would put their stuff on there, and
Yeah, that sounds familiar. I remembered it one time.
yeah, there was a couple of them, but I think it was Pencil Jack that where I knew, I must say knew him, but knew of him, and somewhere I have pages from like a 3-page Batgirl sample he did, and then he got a job. I think he was working like at Disney, but when Disney had animation studios in Florida, I think he was doing something there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have artists every now and then they let you look at while they're drawing and stuff like that at Disney. I think
Well,
they kind of put you
well
on
at Disney,
display.
Well, at Disney World, they used to do it used to be a working animation studio when they did hand animation. But yeah, they do have artists there doing like they do all kinds of stuff. But I think he worked for the animation. I think he worked for Disney Animation for a while out of the Florida. But anyway, he did some. Oh, he did like some Kickstarter stuff and a couple. He did that Batgirl thing, and he wrote some stuff for Marvel. I don't know if he ever drew anything at Marvel, but he wrote that X-Men First Class book I was telling you about, which I really like because it had Roger Cruz did the art for it. There's something about his art I really liked. It was more of an open style than a lot of people had at the time. And anyway,
Have you ever heard of?
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, I should say, but yeah, I like his work.
Have you ever heard of an artist named Paul Richards?
I don't think so.
He has a Tumblr, and he's obviously a concept artist that has done a lot of work. But his sketch style, it is most like, to my mind, Ben Caldwell or Shane Glines, those kind of guys that are really good with gesture and everything. But it's odd. Just, if you were to surf your way to this guy's Tumblr, Paul Richards, you would find right there, the opening pages are all just complete porno. And it's like, and then after you get past that, after he's assailed you with that, then the rest of it is just fantastic little drawings. And of course, nudes. Some people would consider nudes porno, but he's just really good with the figure. He's just, he's awesome with the figure. You do an anatomy study with people deeply involved in sex, and it's like, okay, well, that's porno there. But and it's like, but that's just my definition. Obviously, but I was struck by the idea. Here he is, a pro, obviously, probably gets work all the time without any worry, and I guess and he is also quite the share. He shares these things called the creative trickery, and they he puts together a little page, somewhat like you're probably familiar with Grizz and Norm, and then the other ones, the
Efferton brothers.
The Efferton brothers. It's just like that. But all of his stuff is kind of old. I wonder what he's doing now. I mean, it's like at least 3 years old. This is his latest Tumblr post. He's probably just working right now, but he's left this Tumblr post behind as kind of like a what do you call
marker.
It? Yeah, a marker. He passed this way. Of course, I guess Tumblr, most people consider Tumblr dead. I'm going back and forth every now and then to Blogspot, realizing, this is a great little place to be. You could do...
Oh, Blogspot's great.
You could do anything you wanted to do as a web comic on Blogspot. You can just
absolutely
send people links and say, okay, here's the first chapter.
Makes me wonder why I'm paying for web space.
Yeah, exactly. There's I've quit trying to have my own personal identification web presence that I'm paying for. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I spend a lot of money on that. Do what?
I am listening to Catch Me If You Can. So you've listened to that several times, haven't you?
Oh yeah. That's one of there's about,
or a couple times.
There's about four. No. There's about 4 audiobooks that I keep on my phone constantly, and that's one of them. Are you reading it or listening to it?
I'm listening to it, and that guy's performance is pretty good.
Scott Brick.
Is that his name? Okay.
I think it's a Scott Brick one.
Yeah, he's good, and it is a compelling listening because, the way it's written, this guy is just a kid that just says, well, what can we do here? And I guess it comes from having a high IQ and some sort of need. I don't know, but he just, it sounds like the way he laid out his campaigns was just so methodical. And it really,
it kind of semi encourages you to do your own bit of fraud or something, because it sounds so entertaining to
Oh my gosh,
walk
yeah.
around almost like you're James Bond or something, and only you know what's really the fact. The horror story would be if he ever collided with somebody else that had to, take out his appendix that was was doing his
Was fake
bit.
a fake doctor.
Yeah.
So have I told you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ellis.
No, go ahead.
What have I ever told you the story about me discovering that book?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I used to go to the Oklahoma City Library. Has a huge library sale every spring. I used to go all the time. I've stopped going because it's just kind of a pain. First off, I have way too many books as is, and it's just kind of a pain. But I used to go, and I'd buy a lot of books, and I bought that. It just sounded interesting. Name was Catch Me If You Can,
Right.
and I read it, and I was just like, I was enthralled by the guy's story, and this would have been in the early 2000s, and Dave and I had gone to San Diego once, and it really kind of inspired me it made me say, you know what, I'm gonna try and get a pro badge for San Diego. And so we'd gone in 2000. We didn't go in 2001. 2002, we were going to go. And I said, man, it inspired me to try my own little bit of trickery.
Yeah, you amped up your resume, didn't you? Yeah. Or
Well,
something.
what I did, well, Dave and I started doing a I mean, I did, but I really didn't. Dave and I started doing a web comic. And this was we were way ahead of the curve on web comics.
What year is this?
It would have been between 2001 and 2002.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, in fact, I was doing it on I bought a domain name. I think I had a web page at the time, and I used the web space, and we did this web comic, and I sent it off, and I think you had to contact them, and I wrote them an email, or I think I wrote them a letter. I think you had to send pages back then. And it's like, hey, I do this web comic, but I don't know if you have a category for that. Oh yeah, and so I haven't paid other than that first year. I've never paid for a San Diego badge.
That's pretty cool.
Know.
That you're grandfathered in for
Oh
that.
yeah, well I haven't been in a couple of years, but I get an application every year.
Well, I'm halfway through Catch Me If You Can, and that's the thing with that sort of story. Tomorrow I'm gonna take a little break from the writing. Well, I just may do both. I'm going to listen to the rest of Catch Me If You Can while I draw some things, and just to be drawing. I've decided it doesn't matter if I'm doing things for a reason or whatever. I just have to get the chops back of sitting down and filling out a piece of paper and trying to draw something decently. I'll and not comic books. I'm going to just go back to doing little tells the story with one illustration kind of stuff. And just do that, kind of like a concept artist. But I've got a little web comic myself, the thing I'm writing, and that should plenty occupy me. I should be able to fill up pages with getting good at drawing these characters and getting to know them. That'd be the best thing to do.
Absolutely.
And the thing about Catch Me If You Can, you have to finish that story. I'm only halfway through, but I am, there's no way I'm not going to come back to it. And I was thinking about that. Story fragments, you can have been turned on to a really bad story, but if it told its story at all in any way that caught your attention whatsoever, you feel compelled to come back to it. Like there was a couple of Route 66s that were really just getting on my nerves that I watched, but I'd watched them 3/4 or halfway through, and I had to every now and then go back and watch an extra 5 minutes or so of them and finally get it done, finally watch them all.
Yeah.
And there's a really bad movie. It's not really bad because it's shot well. It has a lot of cuts. It's well, actually now I want to say it's pretty good. It's called Dog Eat Dog with Cameron Mitchell and it's not Jane Mansfield. It's the other one.
Oh, Mimi Van Dorian.
That is probably it. Yeah. I think it's Mimi. It may be Jane Mansfield. I'll look it up real quick while we're talking. But anyway, that movie shouldn't bring you back in after you quit on it. but I'm having to take in 10 minutes or so every night.
I've been watching because of the coronavirus. I'm working from home. Both Michelle and I are, and so I'm getting up like an hour and a half later than I normally do. Because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not driving. I mean, there's no reason to get up earlier. So I've been watching, and I've always kind of wanted to watch this, but I never had HBO. But I've been watching The Sopranos on Amazon Prime. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you watch?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the Sopranos were great. You get really wrapped up in those guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I'm pretty early in it, so.
You know what? It turns out it is Jane Mansfield. Yeah,
Oh,
I should realize. Yeah, the guy has got like this. The movie involves these guys that have had fights and scraps and things like that. And the guy that does the makeup is just really good. But all these people just stay wounded throughout the movie because it's taking place practically real time, which is weird
yeah.
with Jane Mansfield. She's got this weird wound underneath her eye where it's like a scratch where a bit of flesh is still hanging off or something like that.
Oh, geez.
And it's like, why would you let anyone talk you into that being your look throughout the movie? Because usually, she turns away and you're not seeing it, but whenever she turns around and you're seeing this really well done scratch, it's
You're just kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
I think she was kind of odd.
Yeah. Well, it was Jane Mansfield that had the connection with Aleister Crowley, right?
Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey, right.
Yeah. What is it? Mansfield 66, 67 or something
like
that?
Yeah, that was an interesting show. That was...
Yeah. I think she was somebody... And I may be confusing her story with some of those other starlets, but I think she was married quite a few times, and they never went well, and she was just kind of always searching for something.
Yeah, apparently, but the main guy she was with was Mickey Haggerty, and he's one of those guys that was, he was always welcome back in her life. I think she was never had him totally kicked out. I don't think.
Oh yeah. I don't know who Mickey Haggerty is. Was he a bodybuilder?
He was a bodybuilder.
Seems like she was involved with a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And that was kind of one of the reoccurring men in her life.
I think Arnold Schwarzenegger and that girl that used to be on WKRP, Lonnie Anderson.
Yeah.
Played the story as a TV movie.
Oh, really?
So Arnold would have been Mickey Haggerty. And I'm sure Arnold, he's an encyclopedia of everybody that ever got involved in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And so he would have known who Haggerty was. May have been semi-inspired since Haggerty showed up in movies himself, Euro trash movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's in a couple. Let's see. I wanted to see something else.
So while we've been, and I think I told you this, while we've been furloughed or whatever you call it, working from home, I guess is technically what we're doing. Michelle and I have been running at lunchtime.
Cool. And you're
Yeah,
getting tougher, huh?
yeah, I'm getting better. Well, my theory is if we're going to get the virus, I want to get my wind up.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying not to get it. We had to go Walmart today. I figure if I ever get it, I'm gonna get it at Walmart.
Yeah, that's where it'll happen.
We went. Well, we went to. Oh, we had to go to the store for my cousin. We had to get her a money order, and we ended up going to 7-Eleven. Michelle went to 7-Eleven, and while I was sitting there waiting for her, I must have saw 30 people go in there with no gloves, no, not a care in the world, and I'm like, oh gosh. But of course, she was gloved and masked, and when she came out, I had the sanitizer ready. I sanitized
Yeah.
her hands before she ever got in the car, and but still, I don't know. Hopefully, we don't get it. I don't want it. I mean, I don't. Well, I don't want to get
That,
it. Period, because it sounds horrible. But
doesn't it bother you putting that much lead down on stuff when you ink? I mean, isn't that in your way? Do you have to lighten it up? Do you have to
yeah,
bring
I'll
it up a
erase
little bit?
a little bit. But on these pages, on this last, and I wouldn't do this on the other issues. On the last issue, I'm going to scan in all the pencils before I ink them,
Right.
and so I wanted to be as finished as possible. But yeah,
I think
yeah,
you should. I think you should ink that by that method that Jake Parker. You've got one big enough that could give you color as the light green or yellow or whatever he
oh,
uses, or the
do it on
blue.
the.
Yeah, that's what you
Uh,
ought to do because I think you need to kind of like do some reinventing as you go on some of these things where you could say, okay, I can see it, but it actually needs just a little more oomph here and there, that sort of thing.
oh, yeah. Well, unfortunately, I do a lot of that on the pencils. Or when I go from pencils to inks, I do a lot. These
Well,
are
sure,
pretty
yeah,
tight for my
you're going to
pencils.
change it. You're going to change it. Yeah, and I think that would influence how you. I think that color on the Bristol board is a really cool looking technique. I'm thinking I'm just a total idiot for being just digital 100% of the time, because even when I see this Jake Parker who's got it down, I mean, he's good and he's clean and all that, but he's got those processes where I guess he only feels comfortable with that brush pen
Oh
in the
yeah,
real world. He doesn't think he can do it digitally, and
dude.
he may not be able to.
You say that. I've been working from home, and so I've been doing a lot of stuff because at work I'm 100% digital, and I had some stuff that I needed to do that was it was I was drawing comic characters basically for an order, and I tried to do it digitally, and I'm just not. I don't. I do comics digitally for about 3 or 4 years, and I was never happy with the way it looked. So, um, I always felt like I was fighting the program. And I mean, I know the program. There's things that make it super easy when you're using the program, in terms of perspective and stuff, and
Yeah.
layer. Some of that stuff. Okay, yeah, it is easier, but I always felt like I was fighting the program, so
No,
I'm
no. The
not.
main priority is to get the same ease that has always told you you're an artist. Now there are people that have are young enough that have never done their art on anything but digital to where they're trained up from the word go to where it's like, ooh, I don't want to do pencils, and it would actually bug them to have a limitation like that. But it's
Well, I mean, I work digitally,
but
but I
but
don't
it,
draw comics at work. But yeah,
it's funny though that Parker he is typically starting. He likes his drawing initially before he inks. That's digital, and then he prints that out in that yellow, and then he inks. That's apparently where it falls down for him as he inks with a brush pen. Of course, at the end of it, he's got an original he can sell. I guess that's one good reason to do it.
That's what he's doing is kind of how Scotty Young does it, and Scotty Young is big on selling his originals.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, Scotty Young. I mean, he may have changed. The last time I looked at him, and I've talked to him at a couple conventions, and he would do digital roughs and then print it out and then ink it. My problem is with that is I don't like. Well, I've worked in blue pencil, and it's funny looking through my old art. Like I was telling you, I found a bunch. I've done a lot of stuff in blue pencil that I've inked on top of, but I felt like I've always fought to get the blue to vanish. I don't know why.
Well, I'll have to send you the link to where he shows exactly how he does it. Now I do it and find good results by going to CMYK and just keeping the black. There's no way at all that any color survives if you do that. If you just if you turn off all the color channels and you only have the black channel, you're done. It's clean. And then if you say save that and go back to RGB, you're gold. Of course, if you needed to do something else that you only have the tools with RGB.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. But at that point, you're done.
Yeah.
Well, but see, I do that. I scan my inks at 1200 DPI.
Yeesh.
Oh yeah, I scan them in at 1200 DPI. And I save them, and I scan them as straight black and white. And so and I save them as a TIFF, and I'll reduce them to, I can't remember now. I think it's 400 DPI. Well, I'll reduce them down to that, but I scan them in at 600.
You know what? I'm going to try to start a conversation by linking to a video I'm going to make, trying to argue that all these people that are going are so worried about aliasing.
Yeah, that's what I'm eliminating.
That's what you want to eliminate, aliasing.
Yes.
But I have got to, everybody, this is a lot of people know how to do this, which is to just have your black line artwork show up, and any aliasing that occurs aliases to transparent. So it's not an issue of, if your lines fall off, is something that is got some sort of like a little bit of character. In other words, it falls off in a way that is abetted by a little bit of aliasing. I'm curious.
My problem is with that is if you're going to do that, then you have to make sure that all of your pencil lines are erased.
Yeah, that's true too.
And so you have to spend. You can do that, but I don't know if I want to spend 2 hours cleaning up something in Photoshop after I've scanned it.
Yeah.
I'm saying just to think about that.
Well, I'll make the video anyway where I'll do my Jake Parker video. But that video, okay.
I'll watch it. Do it. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I'm open. Hey, I'm open. Yeah. I'm open-minded.
The way his trick is for getting the non-aliased is to use threshold. You go to the threshold, and it's very easy to just have the black and white left. Well, I'll have to send you that link, and you can see exactly. He's scanning artwork that has color in it. He's inking right on top of that color, and he has to get rid of it.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I think I don't know, and it's been a while since I've scanned. I have a whole issue I need to scan in, so I've been putting this off because I don't like scanning. I want to go. I want to go back in time where I could just draw my pages and send them to an inker and let them futz with it all. But that's not the boat I'm in. So, you know.
Well, now you had your art really,
Yes.
really altered by somebody one time. And
Yes.
I would think you'd consider yourself bit by that. I don't know.
Well, I'm in professional inker.
Yeah.
That wasn't even the inker. That was the colorist.
Oh, they changed the art as the colorist. Wow.
Yeah. And they in the final book, I was at New York Comic Con, and I was talking to a guy, and I saw that book on his. He was selling that book. I'm not going to say the name of the book.
Okay.
He was selling that book, and I said, "Hey, can I look at this?" I said, "I think I drew a story in this," and so I told him, and it was in there. I said, "I think I'm in this book." And I was in there, and I told him the story, and I think he thought I was crazy. Well, because
he didn't think anybody'd step off and do that, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I think he may have known the writer is the problem.
Oh, okay.
And I think the person that did it was I think the colorist was like a friend of the writer, and that whole thing was a really weird experience.
Well, it is just one of those things you get an anecdote from, I guess. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's all shaky.
I will. Well, the whole industry is kind of shaky.
Yeah.
Me, but I won't work on any more anthologies. I did a bunch of anthology stuff, and it was cool. And I'm glad I did it because it was good experience. But it was never going to be anything that led me anywhere. However, I will say this: out of that, I used those pages, my pencils, for that book. I used them to get the job I'm currently drawing. So
yeah, well,
no. So I mean,
when you think about it, think about House of Mystery from DC. All the studio guys that were all picking up a paycheck from working for DC back then. Jones and Kaluta and Wrightson and who's the other one? Probably I'm leaving out the big one. Oh, Barry Smith. Barry Smith. No, I don't think ever went off to. I don't think he did any DC.
No, well, I don't know if he did or not.
I don't think so. I think Marvel glommed onto him and didn't let go.
Yeah.
But, Wrightson worked everywhere. Supposedly there's a famous story that Jim Warren, who's apparently a bit of a, hard case when it comes to laying it on you when you think you're special or something as an artist. Or, he just supposedly did lay some bad critiques on people.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I forget the exact details on the story, but Wrightson had a portfolio, and he gave him a little preliminary about telling him how he doubted he could find room for him or whatever, and being a young guy and all that. And then he sees his artwork, and it's like, oh, yeah, okay. You can have work here.
Yeah, I may be able to do something with this.
Yeah, we can do something together.
I may deign to work with you.
That's the deal. You don't have to pitch very hard of what you've got. Oh, I was noticing today what little bit I did on Twitter, and I've done entirely too much. I'm getting to where I ought to think about every other day on Twitter just to make sure I can totally give it up for one day. But Doug announced, and I guess he's been holding it in reserve, but he's had Magnola do a cover for the next
I
Earthworm
saw-
Jim cover.
I
and
saw that. Holy cow, that's amazing.
it is sweet. I mean, it's, your usual love of the simplicity and yet, the power of what Magnola does. I'm copying all of his pencils. That's another thing. It's obvious that he is living that goal that I want to give myself of having a drawing produced today. He is, he's sharing what he does, and they're always a lot of fun. You shared those ones where he reimagined the Flintstones.
Oh yeah,
which were great. They were perfect.
yeah. I saw that Mignola had done that. That's pretty cool.
I was before we started up. I was listening to some John Prine, which I'm not a huge music guy, so I may have been aware of him and heard a couple. But now I've heard 5 or 6, because I listened to a YouTube playlist for a while, and he was pretty special. He was
He's a guy that just passed away, right?
yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Well, see, that would be not your generation. He dates all the way back to no doubt the 60s, early 70s, in terms of being of that era. And you can tell he's always bringing up George Jones in his lyrics.
Oh yeah.
So he must be a huge fan. I think that's where he mostly ended up, was in Nashville.
I like George Jones.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not being a country and western guy, I.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's all about. It really is about the art. With some people, they're just so good they transcend. Prejudice like that of saying, country music, boo. And he's
the other day I played for Michelle. I played She Got the Gold Mine, I Got the Shaft.
Oh yeah.
She had never heard that.
Well, I included in that playlist, it wasn't John Prine pure. It had little Johnny Cash, and it had a song I'd never heard. It was called, and it looks like he did it on TV. It says, "When Uncle Bill Gave Up Dope," and it was it was a pretty good little storytelling song, but it was different. It's about a guy that insists on being locked up. He's hooked on cocaine, and he says, "Don't let me out." It's kind of like young Frankenstein. Whatever I say, don't let me out. And he locks himself in and goes mad for about 2 weeks, and then when they let him out, he's dressed up and he's got a twinkle in his eye. Yeah, he's off. I should have done that with Russell, I guess.
Some of that country had him locked up.
Yep. Had him kidnapped and taken away.
Go
ahead.
When Michelle and I were looking for houses, not this time, but before, we looked at a house, and one of the closets had a lock on the outside, so you could lock somebody in the closet.
Yeah.
What?
There's a
story.
I think Parker by Donald Westlake. He was always doing that. I think locking people in closets. Well, that happens a lot in detective fiction. It seems like everybody. I'm trying to think. There's not a single closet around here I don't think I could bust out of. I don't know.
Oh yeah, because of solid doors.
Well, yeah, these doors, when they are solid. I was surprised how solid these dang doors are when you get after them with a hole saw when you want to. When you want to lock in them. They're hard to drill all the way through. Those things are.
Yeah. Did I hear a cat?
Yeah, you did. He has a routine where he says, you've only fed me 10 times today. You really have to have a thick skin around it.
Yeah, well, those cats will,
But
animals are
you
like
can
that.
tell, it's a little black beach ball, so you can tell I don't have that thick of skin. I've fed him pretty much every time he wanted to be fed.
Well,
Her.
we don't have a cat, but we still buy cat food because we feed all the cats in the neighborhood, I think.
Oh, well, so you get a cat show showing up at your walk. Where do you feed them?
When we walk, we feed them on the other
Oh,
street,
I
so
got you. Okay. They don't come
they
to
don't
your
come
house.
they don't come to the house.
They come to my house. I've got, because this, she'll leave stuff she doesn't eat behind. And it's like, well, that's not going to waste. And I'll set it outside where I feed the birds. And of course, that's not just drawing cats in. I'm sure I'm
Yeah,
feeding.
you got raccoons.
Yeah, exactly.
Possums.
Raccoons, possums, most likely, but it may be even rats. The dog used to kill rats that came up from the culvert behind the house. And
we had a mouse.
Pretty big rats too. Yeah.
Oh, geez, we had a mouse for a while, and it drove Michelle crazy. And so we bought a couple different kind of traps, and we never could catch it. And so I looked online. I found this trap that's like the best mouse trap ever, and it's kind of they call it a walk the plank. So you put it on a bucket over water, and it's got magnets on it. And you bait it, and then they get out there, and it drops them in the water, and they drowned. And so we did that, and Michelle's like, all upset about having this mouse.
Yeah.
And so she gets me one morning, and she wakes me up one morning. She goes, "Well, the first night we did it, it got the mouse." She's like, "Oh, we got the mouse. She goes, "You got to get rid of it, though."
Yeah.
And I go to and I had figured out, it's in this bucket. I'm just going to dump the bucket in the trash dumpster. I'll dump out some of the water and then dump in the trash dumpster. It'll be no big deal. Much easier than a trap.
Yeah.
And so I get it, and I'm looking at it, and I go, "That's kind of cute." And Michelle's like, "No," she felt bad about it after being upset about having the mouse.
Rats make great little pets. They're fun to have around.
I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it. My sister had a pet mouse when we were a kid that some boy had bought her at like the Czech Festival or something there in Yukon, and it was in the it was in her room, and my grandmother came up and visited from Florida one summer, and she was at our house for a couple of weeks or whatever, and one night that mouse got away, and my mom was scared to death because apparently my grandmother's just deathly afraid of, or was deathly afraid of mice, and my mom didn't want to tell her. And I don't know I think the mouse never. I mean, it escaped. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything I'm really truly deathly afraid of. I mean, naturally, I can be totally creeped out to think about I'm in the presence of something that might be under the bed covers with me or something like that. I wouldn't want a scorpion or a spider to be sharing or getting up next to close to me, but nothing really terrifies me. Now I saw this bicycle. I retweeted somebody's tweet where this whole little, I don't know what you call it, group of skunks, but it was Mama Skunk and all her little babies came running down the road together, and this guy cyclist had stopped his cycle and was right in their way.
Oh, man.
They all come up, they sniff his tennis shoe, they sniff his bicycle tires, and they make the funniest noises, almost like they are talking to each other about what they're encountering, and then they just split. But when the mama first went on alert that hey, there's something in the road ahead of us, you could see its tail go straight up. It was going to walk on its front legs and spray whatever needed spraying, but it didn't do that, and then just came ahead like it was expecting a snack or something. I don't know. But it was a wild skunk. But when I see little videos of people with a skunk for a pet, I think, wow, that makes it a cute little pet. Now, I don't know if most anything that ever was wild and is meant to be wild makes a good pet, because these people that have foxes, it just looks like they're a little too high energy. Oh, yeah, there was a question. Did you ever get around to watching Altered States?
No, I never did.
You
That's
never
funny.
did.
No, I bought the DVD. I've had it for a while. I need to watch it.
Okay, I wondered.
I'll watch it. Who did you ask me, or did somebody on the chat ask?
No, I've got it written down as just a throwaway line on the. You got to fill it in with something.
No, I haven't watched it. I need to. And again, it's this thing of we're supposed to be. I mean, everybody I know is like, oh, I'm so bored. I'm trying to fill time, and I'm like, man, I got so much crap to do.
Yeah.
This is not Michelle and I are not on vacation, and I'm getting, and a lot of people are emailing me and stuff, and I feel bad because I can't eat. I know that they're anticipating that I'm free, and it's like, I am not free. I'm busy. I'm not going into work, thank goodness. Because again, like I said, I want to get sick. Not that I would get sick necessarily, but the odds would be better, I think.
No. If you're around any sort of big crowd, you're more likely to get sick.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just hoping to ride it out. My work has gone to before we shut our doors. Went to this work at home model. They had gone, because our business had taken a pretty good hit, like a lot of businesses. We had gone to a 4-day-a-week work week, and I was like, "This is going to be great, man," because we were 4.5.
Yeah.
And there's, in fact, the governor. You probably don't know this because you don't punch a clock or you don't work. The governor has at this point said that he's going to reopen the businesses on the 1st. Well, the 1st is a Friday, so my work has said, no, we're reopening on the 4th, or maybe it's a Thursday. I don't know, whatever day that is. So we're reopening on the 4th.
May 4th.
May 4th.
Yeah, it's time for us to go ahead and just understand that this can't go on.
Yeah.
You have to get back in the groove and go back to it, and it doesn't matter. I just saw something today that this Dr. Fauci, which everybody's pretty high on anyway in terms of his opinion, it's been revealed that he was saying, don't take a whole lot of special care about this. Everybody's got to catch it, and we just have to be ready for it. But I think this whole thing of slowing it down, it allows them to get ready for going to war if the numbers do get really big. But the bottom line is we're all going to get it. I think there's just something in the air that is super contagious, that has got too much of a toehold, and what do you call it? It's well past the tipping point that everybody in the world will brush up against this and catch it. It's almost like, it's like a couple of things that everybody has had and has to get at some point.
Yeah, I kind of wonder about that myself. And I've heard a lot of people, when we went to New York, I saw a lot of Asian people that were there that were wearing masks.
Yeah.
Well, this is end of January. And I had heard about it because my company does business with a factory in China. And so I knew not all about it, but I knew a lot about it. And when we got back from New York, I felt bad, and I hear people anecdotally saying, "Oh, I was sick back in
You may have
January."
had it. You may have had
Yeah, I said I don't think I had a fever,
it. Well,
but I did.
some people it just goes right through them, gives them all kinds of random symptoms. But you may have had it.
I kind of wonder.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You know,
You'd have to have an antibody test to check.
yeah, my wife and I are running, so hopefully, if I do get it, it won't impact me too bad.
The only other thing, a note to pass on to you. I should have checked this a long time ago, but I've been cutting and pasting all the links every
Yeah.
time. Well, those links, YouTube does something to them that breaks them
Oh, okay.
when you cut and paste them. So I'm going to go back and repair all those links eventually.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine.
That's something to do anyway. Hey, we've been at it an hour exactly.
Okay.
You ready to
Yeah,
quit?
yeah, let's call it. Let's call it, dude.
Okay,
I'm gonna go watch some Sopranos.
There you go. I remember when I really was into those. Okay, ending broadcast now. Or did you want to say anything special or anything?
No, not really.
Show us some close-ups here.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Let me do that. Hang on. Yeah. So hang on. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I keep getting notices that are covering that screen. So okay. So this is the story of the angels that have been kicked out of heaven, and they go to this murder con, and so they confront this guy, and I'm kind of modeling this character after the old Count Dante from the comic books. You know, the world's deadliest man or whatever he was.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they confront him. She punches him. She kicks him, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff. So this one of the characters grabs a paddle, and she smacks him on the ass, and then he pops out these bat wings, or kind of like wings, and that's him flying away from the group.
Very cool. And you got a lot of that done tonight.
Yeah, some of it.
And there's where, yeah.
Do what?
And there's where if you just took it into Photoshop, changed it, and printed it out in color, it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't have to change it there.
Yeah.
Okay, in broadcast. See you.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Ended the broadcast. We are out.